And there we are. We are live. We're on time. And it's just myself and Steve at the moment because Bill's tied up in a meeting. He'll be joining us as soon as he can. Kristin's around. She'll be joining us as soon as she can. Haven't heard from Terry yet. And anyone else will kind of jump in when they do. But it's the Bogus Hangout. We don't care. So, Steve.
Exactly.
How's things for you at the moment? What have you been up to this past week?
Actually wrote a second blog post for the same month.
Wow.
Usually I write 2 or 3 a year, and I wrote 2 in 1 month.
Yeah, what's going baffled.
on? You know what I discovered was I was building some custom dashboards for a client, and went, well, while I'm building this custom dashboard for the client, I might as well document the whole process and make a blog post out of it and share some custom dashboards that we've made in the past and kind of show people how to make them, because they do come in handy, especially when you can set them to auto email to clients so you don't have to mess with the reporting side of some things.
I'm always a little torn with that, because on the one level, custom dashboard all the way gives you the information you want very quickly. But
right.
I also like to encourage people to actually dig into the data and, okay, this is the number, but why? And sometimes I find if you set up the dashboard really nicely, they don't dig in past it much. So,
well, the only time I give anybody a custom dashboard is if they're like a C-level person, because they aren't going to dig in. They want to see their choice numbers, and whether those numbers mean anything or not are totally irrelevant. Those are the numbers they want to see. So There you go.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, like the last one I just did was just a brand tracking custom dashboard to just track people who are using, their keywords in search, their social media, and it pulled it all together in one little report. Because all he cares about it is his brand, and that's his job as the CEO. He wants to know how his brand is doing. And all the other stuff gets handled by other people. So,
I think that's actually a good place for a lot of C-levels to start, and for small businesses as well. Your brand should be your major focus, because everything else will fall in place from doing the things to build your brand. The links will take care of themselves if you're looking after and building your brand. The authority search, the entity-ness of your business will all take care of itself if you focus on that brand. So I think that's a really useful one.
Agreed, 100%. And it really means a lot more for local.
Yes.
If you're a local company, your brand is you live and die on it.
Yeah.
And so when you start looking at your keyword reports, when they show your brand and it's got the word review tagged after it, or the word sucks tagged after it, you kind of need to start paying attention to those things. And if you're not looking at them, you're never going to know.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Bill, glad you could jump in so quick. How was your meeting?
I am too. I was wondering there. You get caught up in eating, and sometimes it seems like you never get out.
Yeah. You seem to have letterboxed a bit. Oh, it's sorting itself out. There we go. So, what's new with you, Bill? What have you been up to recently?
No. It's been kind of quiet, trying to catch up on our stuff. A lot of tasks to perform. I'm going to be heading to next week to give a presentation on entities, and that seems like a lot of fun. I'm writing a blog post on come out with, they were granted last week, which allows you to do things like walk up to a restaurant and ask your phone, is this place open? And you don't have to tell it the name of the place, your phone, and look at what you're standing in front of and understand. Or you can walk up to a monument, say you're visiting, you never been there before. You see a statue, walk up to it and say, who is it built for? And Google will give you the answer to questions like that without you actually even knowing how to pronounce the name of the monument. Say you do a voice call search.
Cool. And that's the thing. We've been seeing more of this sort of image recognition and general awareness from Google for quite a while. It sometimes scares me where it's going. You know, how far are they going to go? How big a lawsuit before they start getting cautious? It feels sometimes like they're still at that stage of can we instead of should we?
Ask for permission after the fact?
Yeah, and also just what they're collecting in the first place. And I mean, that's what worries me about Google anyways, as you know from some of the chats we've had with Google. Look, it's not that I don't trust Google. I think Google's a fine organisation, but I don't think that Larry and Sergey own the world, and I don't think that they are going to be able to maintain control on this as much as they want. It's that old thing of it doesn't matter how benevolent a dictator is. The dictatorship they build will fall into the wrong hands. Maybe not this generation, but it will. Absolutely.
True, but the dictator at the time doesn't.
There was
Sorry, Steve?
I said the dictator of at that moment doesn't really care because he's in charge, and when he's not in charge, he won't be around. So,
and isn't that part of the benevolent part, though? Isn't that the whole thing? That the truly benevolent dictator is aware that what they're building could fall into the wrong hands.
Yeah, but that's the whole role of unintended consequences issue we find in everything.
Yeah.
You guys remember when Eric Schmidt to be CEO of the company?
Yeah.
And it was suggested that they find a CEO to give them, because they had never run a company before quite on that scale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what their investors wanted to see. So immediately after they hired him, was that they had given an interview to Playboy, and that was during the period that was supposed to be their quiet period for their IPO.
Right.
Give interviews like that, and the read it and said, "We're okay with this as long as you attach it to your prospectus to allow potential investors to read through it first and see what they're concerned about before they purchased any stock in the company."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kristin's joined us. She'll hopefully have a camera on in a minute. William's speaking up for me here. Yeah, Google is out to kill us with AI. Only with self-driving cars that suicide off of cliffs, apparently.
or moving buses.
Yeah, I read that last night. Crazy.
What I thought was funny about them hiring Eric Schmidt to be their adult supervision is he wound up needing his own adult supervision on a lot of things he was saying. I mean, you know, what was the one thing? It's like, well, if you don't want anybody to know about what you're doing, maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah.
Like, really? That's, you know.
It wasn't quite the right answer, maybe.
No. I always felt that it was necessary for Google to add, you know, when they say they want to, you know, catalog and organize all the world's data, they always needed to add whether you want us to or not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there certainly has always been an element of that. Let me just pull up what Manny said here. Manny said, benevolent can still be caught up in a survival-based competition. It's like a predator-prey diagram arms race for survival. Yeah, absolutely. I do get that they get caught up, but the whole thing that benevolent, you are supposed to think of everybody. Think of what you're building. Think of the risk of it. people who know me know that, you know, I think we should have learned from Alfred Nobel. Hundreds of people die, and we need to create a peace prize to salve our culture. Getting a bit of echo. I don't know who's got the speaker.
Yeah, I don't think I have it open anywhere.
But anyway, so now we are 4. And Kristin, what have you been up to this week?
Well, I don't know if you know, but I'm working for Right Tag now, and so I've been doing a lot of like PR stuff. Now I understand what it means to get caught up with the client.
It looks like it's Bill's sound that's jumping in a bit as we keep getting flashes of Bill's speakers. So, Bill, if you can turn your speakers down just a tad or something, that.
I'm not getting half the words you're saying. I'm not hearing half the words you're saying.
Okay.
I don't know.
3 quick
you just told me.
First thing, Bill, the light behind you is making your computer over-process, so it's having trouble getting the sound right because it's trying to compensate for the light behind you. If you can put more light in front of you or cut down the light behind you, that should help your computer catch up. The other thing is, for some reason, your sound is jumping in, and that's where we're getting the echo from. But yeah, that looks a lot better. I don't know if his sound's caught up yet.
Okay, I don't know what I do about the sound.
I go for the earpiece. It's the easiest, easiest fix. So,
What have you been up to?
work. It's always the same. I got some new clients come in, which is always great. Yeah. But of course, there's always so much to do up front. You know, we've had these conversations for a couple of years now. You know how much I love to really understand every single client's market. I want to know their business as well as they do, as fast as possible. Ideally, even before, you know, that very first meeting, I'll be doing my research. But it does mean that when I take on a couple of new clients at the same time, wow, do I have my work cut out for me.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've noticed about you is that, like, like, it seems like you know the industry better than they do because you're just so intuitive. I think there's an element of that. Like, you do your research, and I think that you also have the talent for just being able to grasp things.
It helped. Most people who run a business, they've worked for a few companies before, and they know what they want to do, but they don't have the outside perspective that a freelancer or an agency guy has, who's literally got experience of hundreds of businesses and some of those really complex decisions that people have had to go through, both the ones that work and the ones that don't. I sometimes think that agency perspective or an outside perspective is so much broader than anybody is likely to have in-house. What do you think, Steve?
I think I agree. Even when the customer has a pretty good setup on their own, there's always something that they're not used to seeing because it's outside of their normal scope. And it really comes into play when you start looking at clients who don't, when you start comparing clients that are in completely different fields and finding out there's still things that apply cross niche and that they'll never think of because it's just so completely outside of their wheelhouse.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I've got from so many years in the business is not even that you know this can work. I've seen this before, but I've seen it multiple times, and I've seen it both work and fail, even when it's the same tactic, and have the insights in what made the difference between this company where it worked great for them and that company where it didn't. Sometimes that's the market, sometimes it's the way they did it, sometimes it's sheer timing. But yeah, Grant has just said, it's good to know your shit and your client's shit too. And absolutely, you kind of have to. How can you give people good advice if you don't know what you're talking about?
What's terrifying is when the client doesn't know their shit.
Right.
We picked up a new client just a few weeks ago who's driving, a million visits a week to his website with no analytics at all. And he's like, I know we're making money, I just don't know how. I'm glad you're making money. Let me help you figure that out.
Yeah. So then he can pay you, or she can pay you intelligently.
Now, the nightmare is you implement analytics and the traffic goes down. Of course, they'll blame you.
Right.
Exactly. As soon as you start counting all those people coming to the website, stop counting them. You're scaring them.
Yeah. So, I mean, it still is one of the fundamental things.
I love that most clients now have analytics on the website. I remember back in the day, you used to have to ask people, what's the log file?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
You'd ask for analytics. They'd tell you, I get so many hits per month. And that was their idea of an entire analytics report. They didn't know where they came from, or why, or where they went.
Well, let me ask another question, because I've had clients who absolutely refuse to use Google Analytics. Who do you guys use when?
This is one I do like to custom cook. I do like to sometimes build my own. Sometimes that's going back to kind of log file stuff. There's quite a few servers that can now write their log files to a database. You can have it, if you're using Apache, it's a piece of cake to get a mod SQL patch that basically puts the logging into a database for you, so that anything you want to get out, all your reports can be SQL queries, and you can save good queries and get some great data out. I do like having your own data in there. So I do have a lot of clients that I push towards dropping Google and going with their own, because eventually, Google isn't in your business. Yes, it's there to help your business, but only incidentally to help their business. Google's first priority is Google.
Oh, most definitely.
So should you be giving this company all of your data? It's that benevolent dictatorship thing again. Yeah, right now they're benevolent, but how are you going to take back 5 years of data when that stops being true?
Or how are you even going to get 5 years of data out of them?
Yeah, exactly. It's much better, I think, if you're really serious about analytics and you've got the budget, data warehousing all the way, custom built, use your own stuff, because that way you can really start to do things that are much more advanced, like tying all of your different campaigns together, so that you know that when somebody visits through their mobile and you get them to send the link to themselves to their desktop for later because they got to a form and you spotted they were on a small screen and might have trouble with this, so you've offered the suggestion. There's a tracking link built into that ties whatever clicks that link with this database entry, so that you can start really tracking those cross-browser activities that are going on when people are coming in on multiple devices, or where they're bookmarking for later. You offer them, would you like to bookmark
device tracking
link? So yeah, custom tracking all
Have you
the
seen
way.
the phone? Yeah. Have you seen the send to phone button in search results?
Yes.
From local listings?
Yeah.
I tried that out. That's a nice new feature.
But I kind of like the reverse as well. So when somebody first comes to you on a mobile because they wanted the instant gratification, you know that still a lot of the shopping part still happens on the laptop or the tablet or something like that. So, you know, offering them send to tablet, record for later, come back when you got time kind of links where you email them a reminder, I think is a great thing. And it's something we talked about back on Creator Site back in the day. It was, you know, the biggest use of that email a friend stuff. Every site for a while had the email a friend link. It was like the social media icons today. Email a friend. Nobody
Right.
was emailing their friends. They were emailing themselves a reminder because they found your site on the work PC during lunchtime and they want to check it in the evening with their partner or simply when they've got more time to go through. And those links were really popular, but for a completely different reason. When we changed the text of that to be email yourself a reminder, we got A, an increase in the amount of traction, but B, we were now connecting with the mindset a lot better. And by thinking of that, you could start thinking of making tracking links so that you could time that connection, so that you can spot when people are using these different devices. And it really, really was an eye-opener. Hey Fab, how are you?
Hello, hi everyone. Good. Alive. Not too bad. We actually.
What have you got on the wall behind you this time?
No, this is just some kind of pattern thing. Is another meeting room, but yeah. And we actually I'm actually using a custom tracking as well. Well, we have analytics, mix panel, and other stuff, but the custom one is, especially in financial services, when you want to tie the backend to the actual website. That's probably the only way to go, because none of the company is going to give their data to Google or whatsoever. So that really allows to go deeper on like larger data set. At the same time, it's not as flexible, I think, because when you need to do something very quick, the pleasure of Google Analytics is still good. But like if you know what you aiming at, building something custom probably, if you have the budget as well, like probably is not for someone at very entry level, but like with a little bit of budget, it's not as challenging.
Yeah. I don't think custom built has to be expensive. I think it is sometimes worth paying somebody who really knows analytics to help you set up what you want to record in the first place. But there are so many free solutions out there for tracking, you know, for the mods to make your server track to a database. Now that assumes you've got a server of your own, or at least a virtual server that can handle it. But even using flat text files, and you can get all kinds of scripts that will write those if necessary, you can do a lot with them. It depends what systems you have in the back.
It's probably more about time, I guess, in terms of being expensive, because if you don't know what you're aiming towards, that can be, you know, change it, and then like, I guess you need to be very confident on what you wanna measure if you go that path.
Yeah, and I mean, this was a talk I gave at Brighton SEO a couple of years ago. One on delete Google Analytics.
Did anyone do it?
I don't know if anyone actually did it, but a lot of people said it made them really think about it again. Because I always say, look, the first thing you do with almost any of your clients, and this was a room full of SEOs, you know, there were 100 or something, you know, eager-faced SEOs, and you know, I'm saying like delete Google Analytics. You can guess what the look on their face is going to be. But I said the first thing you do with most clients is tell them how important analytics is, and then you should offer them the exact same solution that some cheap offshore Indian company is going to offer. What does that actually say about how important you think analytics is? You have no differentiator in the thing you just told them is most important. As a business, hang yourselves. You've just thrown it all away. Now, if you've got a custom solution and your solution is good, and it's worth having one that's good, you've now got an actual lock-in for clients. They want to stay with you because if they go with another agency, even a cheaper one, they lose your analytics solution. They lose your reporting, and this should be a core differentiator because it is an extra level of lock-in with a client. They want to continue using it. Just because somebody's offered them the same supposed same service at half the price, now you've got something that actually balances that out. Yeah, I could go with them, they're cheaper, or my friend can do this for cheaper, but then I lose these reports. And you'll be amazed how often the reporting is a core difference for a lot of companies. It's like the dashboards, Steve. You know, when a CEO has got used to their report coming in this format and they like that format, they are really resistant to moving to any other agency, no matter what, even if their current agency is doing a terrible job and costing them a fortune, because they're used to those reports and he doesn't want to change them.
My big mistake is I don't delete the reports when they fire me. I let them keep all the custom dashboards, and I probably shouldn't, but it's just a habit of we'll leave it there, and at some point the automated email will expire.
Yeah.
And it's always fun when the new guy can't figure out how to start that back up. Yeah. That's always entertaining.
This is the thing. I wouldn't undo any work, and in that scenario, I'd have them look. Here's all of your data to the point where I stop working. Mm-hmm. Going forwards, you won't get any more reports like this. Yeah, have somebody cook it themselves if you want. They can try. Because I don't often say exactly what goes into some of those reports. Some of my metrics are kind of algorithmic. I am balancing this by a factor. I'm coming up with numbers that matter to me, that are meaningful and consistent, but I'm not telling them exactly how those numbers are reached.
Well, have you had people that come back because they decide they can't live without that dashboard?
I've certainly seen that in agencies, yes.
And I've had clients leave because of whatever reason, whether it's price or somebody else can do it cheaper or better or whatever. And I've had them come back. I've had one client. We've walked our separate ways over the last 12 or 13 years half a dozen times, and usually 6 months to a year later they come back, and it's like, why do you keep walking away? Why do you keep walking away when you just kind of come back? And the last
you
couple
empower
of times
them.
Raise the rate. No, I keep raising the rate on them every time.
Exactly.
Exactly. Well, now it costs you this much.
I think it's a good thing because it does remind them what's out there. It does remind them of your value when they've gone elsewhere. It's that whole thing about customer loyalty. A customer who's had a problem and resolved it is always a more loyal customer. I don't know if that's true with the ones that go walkies, because they often go walkies again, but...
I did have one that came back, and I told them to go away forever because they had their in-house bookkeeper build them a new website instead of paying the $2,000 I was going to charge them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden their traffic went to zero, and they couldn't figure out why. No, I'm done. Have a nice day.
Yeah, exactly. And if they've pummeled me for information and then used that information, that's a time as well where, no, look, you burned that bridge. We had a frank discussion. The trust was implicit. You burned that. We are no longer ever going to have a relationship. Not only this, but you let any company that ever hires you know that I won't work for any company that you work for.
Yeah. Well, and it's important. It's one of the things a lot of consultants miss out on is they don't understand that it's okay to fire clients.
Yes.
And in fact, it's kind of important to be able to draw a line and say, and you're going to have to go.
Yeah.
One of the first things Vin and I did a series, Vin Messina, on marketing. And the first thing I said, the thing that really defines your business isn't what you do, it's what you don't do. It's what you say no to. Yeah. I still believe that a fundamental part of any business brand, whether it's small business, large business, whatever, it's where you draw the lines. It's where you say no. And absolutely, that includes which clients you say no to and which clients you fire. Defines you.
Yeah.
Especially in agencies where he's not actually a private owner, but is either owned by larger groups and so on. It's difficult to go with that policy because, you know, at the end of the year, all these people have targets and so on. So, like, a client means revenue, and sometimes it's difficult to say no to revenue. But then on the long term, you gonna having people working not on the right thing, and then that is not gonna grow as a client. That is not gonna give you any kind of like as a company, and even for the people, if it's not the right client, eventually the people, which is probably the biggest asset in an agency, they will not enjoy it, and then it's like
I was real happy to learn that lesson I hate to think about it now, but it's been almost 3 decades ago when I used to have a Domino's pizza store, and I used to keep a stack of Pizza Hut coupons for those special customers. And it's like, I'd take them Pizza Hut coupons and say, here you go. Next time you want a pizza, call these guys, because I don't want you here. And
yeah, I think every SEO I know that I call an SEO has referred work to others because they don't want that client.
Yeah. And it's not always the client. Sometimes it's just not a good fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I've had clients that were handed to me that I was told were absolutely impossible to work with, and I have no problems with, and I'm sure I've done the same. It's just sometimes personalities just don't match up, and there's
sometimes
it's either.
You know, it's a client in an area. You've just done 3 clients in this area. You're not trying to specialize in that. You want something else. You know, it might be the 4th hotel you've had in a row, and you know, you just don't want that right now. And those, you do. You send them a good reference. You say, look, right now I can't take you. Here's some guys. They're good. Trust me. Let them know I sent you. I will get in touch or make an introduction. And yeah, that will sort them out. Sometimes they're people that I don't want so much, and then I will give them a nice cheap company offshore or something like that to go with.
So do you try to keep a few SEOs around that you don't particularly like so that you can give the ones, like the clients, over to them?
I send them to Fiverr.
Oh, that certainly works. Or you send them to one of the directories or something like that. You know, you send them somewhere. I mean, sometimes you know what these people are going to go for. The reasons that you're not going with them already tell you. You know, they want cheap. Well, you know what? Go through your email. You've probably got 100 offers from companies offering you cheap, and that's what you get for cheap.
Yeah. Any one of those will be happy to take your money.
Yep. Absolutely. But other times I get people who want particular things. I mean, I've had clients that come to me. All they really want right now is link building, and because it's specialist one area rather than the broad stuff, I will sometimes send them to somebody who's really good in links, better than me in links. You know, I'll send them to Lyndon Ancliffe if it's kind of getting the link bait stuff going. I mean, that guy is an absolute genius for it. If it's solid, reliable link building they want, I'll probably send them somebody like Deborah Mastala. You know, that's one of the things she does. You know, I've got no problem with sending people to, especially if they want to, you know, work with affiliate. I'll send them to Sugar Ray. Yeah, no problem at all. I think that what matters isn't whether you do the work or not. It's whether somebody comes to you with a problem and they get that problem solved at the end. Doesn't matter whether you did the work. If you gave them a good recommendation, they still carry away a very positive experience of you. And if something isn't quite right for you and you're not going to be able to deliver awesome results, send them to somebody that will, And that way you still build your brand as if you'd given them the awesome results.
Mm. Still get credit.
Yeah. And, you know, these people will send work back your way. Yeah, sometimes they send you ones that aren't so good. Sometimes, you know, you start thinking, oh, hang on, have I done the thing of annoying them where they've sent me their Dove clients? You know, you still know that you're top of mind. You got thought of. Yeah, and this kind of comes up. There was a thread in Creator Site that I responded to today, and they were talking about small businesses and how sometimes they hire you and then go completely against everything you say and do that. And I said, look, this is what small businesses are. Small businesses are people with no sense. That's why, despite the fact that 95% of businesses go bust, they still decided to open one. Understand that their pig-headedness is what enables them to have a small business, and that if your job is helping those small businesses, then it's your job to be on their side, even against you at times. Your job is to be on their side, not necessarily to win, because remember that 95% rate is hard to beat. You know, even as an expert, you can get it down. You can give them an 80% chance of going bust instead of a 95. That's a huge win. But you need to understand that, because this is the real world. Most businesses, 95%, go bust within 3 to 5 years without having ever made back the amount of money and time that was put in. That simple.
I could
It's not
go
they
bust a
won't-
whole lot faster than that.
Yeah,
And I have.
yeah. It happens. But this is it. Small businesses have to have this incredible belief in themselves. They have to have this belief against the odds. They have to have a resistance to conventional wisdom. Otherwise, they wouldn't have a small business. Now, sometimes that's going to play against you. But if they're paying for your advice and not taking it, that's fine. They paid to get it. Be proud of the advice you gave them, not whether they took it or not. If you're really attached to it, try and learn how to make that pitch better. You know, I've said outrageous things to people that normally they would reject instantly. You know, delete Google Analytics. That's a stupid thing to be saying to a bunch of SEOs. But at the end of it, yeah, they weren't ready to do it, but they no longer thought I was nuts, and they were thinking, which was the whole point of the exercise.
That was your slide share.
Yeah. You know, telling people you don't want to rank #1. What do you mean we don't want to rank #1? And then explaining to them how, you know, the #1 result is the first one you click on and abandon to look for a better price if you can find it. #1 does not get you conversions in anything except a brand search.
Yeah.
When you explain it in the right way, even telling them things that, you know, they reject out of hand, they suddenly get it, and they connect much better. You know, so some of this is learning how to present your own information that goes against what they want to do.
Right, I had a client who had a lot more conversions when they were ranking #2. Because put to the #1 site, read through it, learn from it, and then click on their site and buy from them.
Yeah. Yeah, and somebody was
I know it's
pointing
trying
out.
to knock you off the #1 spot too.
There's a couple of examples recently where people were pointing out. I can't tell you all of the places I saw it, but I've seen this coming up in a few places that Amazon have started to not mention Amazon so much in their listings when you're looking at the product level, and there is a reason for that. And I was pointing out, well, yeah, Amazon is such a big brand that everyone knows that you'd think, oh, if this is on Amazon, I've probably already seen it and didn't convert, or, you know, I will find it anyway because I come back to Amazon often. So they were actually getting lower click-throughs and conversions when they mentioned their brand when it was for specific products, because people take the brand for granted. When they didn't mention it and people click through and find themselves on Amazon, they were actually considering the offer, and it was much better for them.
What I'm doing, like recently, sometimes I go on Amazon first, and because I know I may find it there, and then I then go back to Google and that's where I don't click on Amazon, because I know that I kind of explored that. Well, for some particular stuff that I'm pretty confident Amazon does the job. John is smiling probably, but
Oh, I don't know. I guess it's the same thing everywhere. It's like you try to research a little bit, and then you try to figure out where to get it best, and then the ads follow you around for the rest of your life.
Right.
I already bought it, you know.
Just going to bring up Grant quickly again. He's joining us next week. He's promised, so we'll all hold him to this. He isn't jumping in this week, but he will be in next week. He said 80% of businesses go bust according to Bloomberg. Yeah, but if you notice, they're looking at only 18 months, whereas I was saying 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. I don't know the US figures, but I understand they're very similar. In the UK, it's 95% go bust within the first 3 to 5 years, and never make back what was put in. So, you know, it is a very brave thing to start your own business. And I think if you're helping small business, you need to understand that these people are slightly crazy, or they wouldn't have small businesses. It's your job to take that recklessness and that bravery and kind of nudge it in the right directions, but don't expect to win every argument. If they listened to every argument, they wouldn't have a business.
Hmm.
The odds are against them. All reason says don't do this, take a nice safe job with somebody. Seriously. You know, so understand that resistance to sensible advice is part of what makes them an entrepreneur that can employ you in the first place.
That's a cool way to look at it.
I've got to pull this out. Grant says, they may go bust, but British businesses are very apologetic about it. Terribly sorry, we've gone bust. I'm afraid we're closed. He's not wrong. They do kind of have these very apologetic closing down sales. Hey John, how are you? What's new with you?
Oh, pretty good. Nothing crazy. I managed to catch my breath after all the AMP stuff last week, so life is fine.
Yeah, now you just got to ride the fallout as everyone talks about it for the next 3 months and make up lots of things. And of course, continually question you over when the next penguin's coming.
Yeah, you have to move to AMP first.
Tell them that penguins are a lot like buses. 3 come along at once.
Everybody's on AMP. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't want to make any jokes about penguin. I know some people have been waiting for these changes for a really long time, and it would be nice to be able to roll it out fairly quickly, but sometimes these things take longer than expected.
Yeah. So.
Is there anything that ever, like, in any part of life, other than maybe sometimes like precipitous labor, that happens sooner than what we would like it to? It seems like it's just like the safer thing to do, to just add a little bit, add a cushion, know that you're going to be late because there might be traffic, you might run into a bus, different things happen.
It's particularly with building any kind of software, any kind of programming, you got this thing called creeping featureism, which is, actually, look, we've got half of. If we just add a couple of lines here, we can make this do this. Look, a whole new feature, and as you see these, wouldn't it be nice to have this and have that? You know, you really have to resist. You have to kind of draw up a plan. This is what we're building in round 1, and just build that. By all means, have these other ideas, just write them in a notebook for version 2. You know, focus on the thing you're trying to do.
Yeah, and then it's fun when, like, the person that's supposed to be, like, PR, like, it doesn't work on their machine, so they can't, like, use it, like, firsthand. That happened to me a few times already.
That's supposed to happen. I think that's always like built in. Like when you're trying to demo something, it's not meant to work. You
Right.
have to accept that. And if it
And
does
you just
work, then
pray
it's
that like it's
almost
not
worse.
happening to everyone else.
Yeah. I have a friend that works in virtual reality, and if one of his demo works, that project is gonna end up like crap. It's impossible. The first demo must be completely off, like not even start. That's the kind of good starting point for having something nice.
Yeah, and do you know what? Those false starts often make for a better end product, don't they? I think a lot of the successes in everything in life are the things that failed early on. This thing of fail fast. A lot of people sort of misapply that and apply it in the wrong places, but it really is important. Knowing where something falls apart very quickly so that you can build that into the stage and get further along, I think is so important. You know, can you imagine if Yahoo had just said yes when Google offered them the algorithm? What a hugely
So
different
the
world.
second phrase in that phrase is fail fast, fail smart.
Yeah, yeah. This is it. Several people had the option to buy the Google algorithm very early on, and they all turned it down. And those failures certainly helped. And Google's first attempt to monetize, you know, selling the sort of Google in a box. We will do intranet search for you. You know, we'll apply our algorithm to your machines. Thank goodness that failed, because without that, AdWords wouldn't be what it is. You know, it's trial and error. It's the things that don't work that often help us get to the thing that does.
Well, yeah. I mean, as long as you take a step back afterwards and think about what went wrong, what needs to be improved, what could be done better. So I think that's a really important step. And sometimes it's tempting to say, "Oh, that didn't work. I know why that didn't work." We'll just ignore that part of, I don't know, the idea completely, rather than say, "Oh, well, this small aspect actually didn't work, but maybe it'll work if we turn it around and try slightly differently."
Yeah. Is that
You
something that...
don't hear too much about the opposite of that, which happened when Rank Brain came out, and the announcement was third most important ranking feature in Google. Of course, they didn't tell us what number 1 and number 2 were, but it supposedly was very effective.
It'll turn out that, you know, number 1 is the algorithm. Everything that ranks search first, and then this thing's third after AdWords.
I have to laugh because, Bill, I saw your Twitter poll last night that you had, and someone like responded back, rank brain, and you're like, I failed to see how that's relevant, or whatever you said. It was just so funny. And he was like, that's just my Twitter creativity or something. It was just hilarious.
For me, rank brain kind of comes out as being kind of another feedback loop. It's, you know, how you learn anything, how you improve anything is dependent on the feedback you can get, how you can see how what you do here relates. And part of rank brain is about finding the searches you don't do so well now, which again is going to help those machines learn where the weaknesses are and how to, you know, fix them even before rank brain picks them up. At least that's my feeling. John, is that miles off?
Could be. Could be okay. So, I mean, to a large part, it's sometimes really hard to understand where, like, a machine learning algorithm picked up its ideas or how it came to a specific conclusion. And
John,
I think
we're both from the forums. It's hard to work out where people get their ideas.
that's true too. Yeah, but especially when you're talking about like algorithms, you think, well, it's probably taking a bit of this and a bit of that and adding it up, and then it says show this or show that. But these are things with a lot of machine learning systems. You don't really understand how it came to actually learn that,
Yeah.
and that makes it kind of tricky sometimes. You kind of have to build almost like a structure around it so that you can figure out, okay, it failed in this specific case, but why? Why did it fail? What did it do wrong? What did we teach it wrong? What algorithm kind of misunderstood what was happening there?
What did it teach itself wrong?
Maybe, yeah,
It's machine learning,
maybe.
right?
Yeah,
Sometimes
but
it-
I mean,
it
it's
spots the wrong correlations, and let's face it, we've seen that happen in SEO. You know,
Yeah.
every time this
No.
happens, that happens.
no, that would never happen in SEO.
Oh.
SEO is much too logical of like a niche to like draw wrong conclusions. That would.
But it takes me back to years ago when I first started to look at Bayesian spam filters. So they're based on probabilities, and it looked at very broad factors. This guy had written this huge thing about, and one of the first things this program noticed is that emails, it didn't matter so much what was said. You want the biggest clue whether something is spam or not. It will usually contain more than one exclamation mark. That's kind of a 90%
caps.
probability of spam in itself.
Yeah.
And it will be bold and have red text, and therefore it's
It might
something.
blink.
If you see bold red exclamation marks in any email, it's 99% certain it's spam. And the thing is, it actually holds up. The false positive rate was very poor. But it's kind of things like that where they're coincidental. It's not necessarily analysing what you think it's analysing, and it can be, you know, all of these pages rank really well, that these are good results, and all of those ones are very bad results. And it turns out that what the machine algorithm has started to do is look at the copyright date, and you know, the simplest things that we overlook, of course, a machine doesn't necessarily. It doesn't use the selective judgment that we use, and sometimes that creates a much better result. But of course, it can also create some very odd logic sometimes.
Sometimes the signals don't stand out that much. But when I get an email from a company and they have their own name, it's usually a clue to me that it's not from them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the things that, you know, I've taken that to my SEO generally, and I think that sometimes knowing the difference between correlation and causation is important, but it isn't also in itself Boolean. Look, when things correlate, there's often something deeper there that you need to be looking for. Why this correlation is there? Is there an actual logic? Because coincidence only takes you so far. That correlation can be important. It can lead you to discover something you hadn't previously known existed, kind of thing. It's a bit like how they spot black holes in space. You can't see a black hole. You can't detect one. You can't bounce any kind of signal off it. Nothing comes out. But what you can do is spot the absence of the signals that you should be getting from near it. And, you know, that kind of thing, that correlation can sometimes let you know there's a black hole there.
And figuring out patterns, perhaps.
Yes. Definitely
You
look
can
at
apply
patterns, but
somewhere
don't necessarily take the pattern at face value. Sometimes it's telling you about something else you can't see.
Very deep, very deep.
Yeah, I think marketing has to be though, because we're dealing with people, and people are very, very confusing things. You know, the machines are not going to be able to, you know. I think the scariest thing is that sooner or later the machines will understand us better than we understand ourselves, and that could be a rather frightening mirror to look into, couldn't it?
Like, sometimes people are still a bit tricky because, for example, we created a page that probably a machine would really love, and for us was very logical, and we said, okay, that's a nice page. We had like a customer here in the office, and we asked them to comment this page, and oh my God, she got the completely opposite. Well, obviously, we didn't pass it across a sample of like hundred of thousand, but like, yeah, the first word that she said was completely different direction of what we thought. So that's where probably someone logical and the machine would have gone into what we were building, but then the actual customer and the user, now I'm not as sure about what could happen with that page. So yeah, that was cool.
I've got some very high CPU usage at the moment, so I may start getting a bit iffy here. So if somebody else wants to jump in and speak for a couple of minutes, that's good.
I have a question for everyone. How likely is that, like, because now when on mobile in particular you enable voice in terms of like Android listening to you, and how likely is that thing is going to impact into what you search? So for example, I was talking about like hotel in a specific city in London, let's say, and then I go to type hotel. The fact that I was talking about that city, that could influence the kind of auto-suggest in terms of like what could come up, or was just a very weird coincidence?
Probably just a weird coincidence. I mean, you kind of notice it when you turn your phone on and you say record a video or something, where you see your battery essentially like dropping like that. So you can imagine if the phone was just recording the whole time, then the battery would last, I don't know, maybe an hour maximum or something. So it's something where from a technical point of view, it makes sense to listen to, like, I don't know, action words, where you like saying, "Okay, Google," then that's something. Oh, my phone is reacting. See?
Yeah.
Like it understands that. It understands that pattern,
Yeah.
and now I hope it doesn't set an alarm or something.
So it doesn't go more far than getting, let's say, the title of the song of the movie that I'm watching. Basically, that's how.
Well,
that's
probably not even that. I mean, if you're
Oh,
actively,
does
if
work
you have
for
the
that.
voice on, sure, then it can pick that up. But it's usually it's something where you have to trigger it first. You have to tell it,
Well,
okay.
you need to ask.
Yeah,
This
I'm not
is-
going to say the word because it'll react. But you kind of have to trigger it first, and based on that trigger, it'll know to actively listen to what else is happening.
In the
So-
Google Q&As that we've been doing with Anton, Andrew, Bill raised the point that you can't seem to turn off the microphone in an Android device, which I said you can. You just got to jam a screwdriver through it. It's also very difficult to actually disconnect one from the internet. You can disconnect it from a particular kind of network, but it's very difficult to just say to it, no, I want to be offline. It's always looking for a connection. If you've allowed
airplane mode.
Yeah.
I use that a lot to kind of save battery, or to, I don't know, when I'm traveling and I have my phone, my laptop tethering, and I want my other phone to just like stop downloading stuff, then I put it in airplane mode.
Yeah, but there are hundreds of middle-aged and moms and things all over the world going, but I don't want to get on an airplane just to have some quiet.
Yeah, sure.
If they turn on airplane mode when they're not on an airplane, surely they'll end up flying or something.
I think there's some misconceptions around technology, but I don't think you can get an airplane like that.
Oh, John, you need to hang around in some of the non-webmaster forums. Believe me.
It's possible. Trust me, it's possible.
Let me summon my airplane.
In the past 3 days, I helped through Skype or Hangouts both my father and actually my mother on one phone, and my aunt to install WhatsApp without looking at their phone, just giving them instruction and basically going in the Play Store on my phone and giving them click on the right top and do this and that, and the two operations took around 20 minutes each. and you know, I don't think they were as off from the average user. So this thing could happen.
As I say, there are still, we in Google Plus and Twitter and a lot of the social networks, we are still very familiar with the internet compared to a lot of users. And there are still a lot of users whose usage of the internet is logging into Facebook literally once a week to see what their friends are up to. That's it.
Just
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, it's you don't have to like build websites all the time to say you're a user of the internet, right? It's like everyone has a different aspect that's important for them.
Yeah,
it's not as fine. No, I'm not saying that it's not fine, but like maybe on young generation that are kind of expected to work because even nowadays, no matter if you're doing what job you're doing, but you will have some connection with any company you're in. There's going to be a website, and you have to be able to understand a little bit internet. That's where I'm a bit like, there's some people that like they're young and they're coming to work, but then they have no knowledge of the web at all, and that's a bit difficult. Like,
I do meet quite a few people in their 40s who, if you tell them, oh, shop online, they will look online for the websites of the stores they know in the high street to see what they've got without going to them, and then we'll go to the shop and buy it. That's the idea of online shopping. If they don't know where that shop is, then it's not even going to look at the website.
Sure. I mean, some of that, I guess, also comes from the earlier days of the web where you try it out and you're like, I want to buy shoes online, and then the search results are just probably not as useful as if they search for a specific brand directly. But these things change over time, and the new generation will search completely differently. And the generation after that will, I don't know, search by voice or by brainwaves or by pointing at things.
Definitely already with us. Kim,
or maybe they'll draw like with their hand. It's like, I want something like,
Oh yeah.
By then, all Android devices will be just watching us all the time anyway, and the kids will just say, "Want one," and it'll order it for them. That's it.
They could just think it. Thought pattern.
Yeah. The whole of language will have got down to want, don't want. That's it.
Maybe it's just like connected to the like button,
Maybe they just put a thumbs up or a thumbs down. They don't speak at all. In fact, all our other digits will go away. We'll just have basic function to hold a device where our thumb can reach it.
Eventually, we'll all just be jelly in jars.
That sounds like the Matrix. I don't know. It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll still have internet marketers because someone has to create the content that people thumbs up and thumbs down. So
it could well be. We are at the hour. Once again, it just vanishes on us. Great pleasure to chat with everyone again. Thanks for everyone that tuned in this week. We will be back next week. We will be dragging Grant in here because he's our kind of crazy, really. And maybe David Amaland will join us next week. He's just got back from the gym. He didn't say Jim who, but that's pretty much all we've got time for this week. So join us again next week. As always, the Green Room will probably carry on chatting for a little while. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.